All right, let's dive into something uh, pretty fascinating today.
Okay.
The mere exposure effect.
Oh, cool.
Have you ever noticed how,
Yeah.
like, a song
Mm-hmm.
that you weren't that crazy about, at
Right.
first, you hear it a couple times,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, I kind of like this song. Or like
Yeah.
someone you see around, like a
Yeah.
stranger,
Mm.
and you see them a bunch, and you're like, oh, they're not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, the mere exposure effect.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn more.
And we've got some research articles,
Okay.
even stuff from Robert Zajonc, who is like one of the
Oh, wow.
big,
Like a pioneer.
pioneer.
Oh, cool.
So by the end of this,
Yeah.
you'll really understand
Oh,
how
like
this
good.
works, how it's
Yeah.
affecting you.
Right.
So first of all, like, what is this thing?
Yeah. How do we define it?
I was reading this article in Decision Lab, and it had this great example, right?
Yeah.
So imagine this woman, Jane. She's walking into this restaurant.
Uh-huh.
It's in Little Portugal.
Okay.
It's her first time there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's overwhelmed by the menu,
Yeah.
right?
Too many choices.
So she just orders pizza
Pizza it is.
because it's like,
Familiar. Comfortable.
safe,
Yeah.
easy.
Easy.
I know it's going to be good.
Exactly.
There
You
you
know
go.
what you're getting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, you don't want to think too hard.
Yeah,
You just go with what's familiar.
absolutely. Yeah, I think we've all been there,
Yeah.
overwhelmed by a menu, just like, I'll have the burger.
Totally. All right, so let's get into some of the science behind this.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
So Zajonc, right?
Mm-hmm.
He noticed this thing.
What's that?
He noticed that words that have positive meanings
Oh.
tend to be used more in
Interesting.
language,
Okay.
like more frequently.
That is interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So that got him thinking.
Yeah, he's like,
I wonder if there's a connection here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that led to some pretty groundbreaking studies, I would say,
I bet.
that really established this
Yeah.
mere exposure effect.
Cool.
Okay, so there's this one
Okay.
that I thought was super interesting.
Yeah.
They showed participants these shapes, polygons,
Okay.
but they showed them so quickly.
Like subliminal, like a flash.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So they didn't even consciously know
Well,
what they
boy.
were seeing.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, get this,
What?
they asked them to choose
Okay.
which polygons they preferred,
Yeah.
and they chose the ones that they had been exposed to.
No way.
Subliminally, even though they didn't remember seeing them.
That's wild.
And they actually have a graph in this research.
Oh, cool.
And it shows how much higher their preference was
Right.
for the shape than they were even able to recognize it.
Wow. So it's like their subconscious was
Yeah.
picking up on it.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's fascinating.
So it's not just recognizing it. It's like
right.
something deeper.
A deeper connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So then, then you start to wonder, well, is it just familiarity?
Yeah. Is that all it is?
Right.
Like, have I just seen this before?
Exactly. So
Okay.
Moreland and Zajonc, back in 1979,
Okay.
they did this research. And it showed that the preference for the thing you've been exposed to
Yeah.
doesn't rely on conscious recognition at all.
Wow.
So even if you don't know you've seen it,
Too crazy.
you still are more likely to prefer it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So it's like this background process that's happening.
Under the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, then we get into subliminal exposure.
Right. Where it's like you're not even aware of it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. And this is where it gets even crazier.
Okay.
There was this study, Murphy, Monahan, and Zajonc, 1995.
Okay.
They showed participants Chinese ideographs,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like those symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And these were like totally unfamiliar to the
Yeah.
participants.
New symbols.
Yeah. And subliminally, they showed them.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
And then later on, they showed them a mix.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
What?
They liked the ones they had been exposed to more,
Even though they didn't know they'd seen them before.
even though they had no idea.
Oh, my God.
They'd never seen them before consciously.
That's wild.
Right.
Yeah.
So even without your conscious mind, being like, oh, I recognize that,
Yeah.
you can still have this preference.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So Zajonc thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I think this is like classical conditioning.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like Pavlov's dogs.
Exactly. So
Okay.
do you remember how that worked?
Vaguely. Yeah.
Remind me.
Yeah. So you pair a neutral stimulus with something
Right.
that evokes a response, like a natural response.
Right.
And then eventually that neutral stimulus all by itself
Will cause that response.
Right. So
the bill with the food.
Yeah. So he's like, I think this is similar.
Okay. So how does that apply here?
I know, it's like we're not talking about bells and drool.
Right.
But he's saying that when we're exposed to something repeatedly and there's no negative consequence,
Okay.
our brain's like, okay, that's good.
It must be safe.
You have to be safe. Like, I haven't died yet.
I'm still alive.
So, you know, I'm going
to
like it.
I like it.
This is good.
That's cool.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like our brains are constantly like, okay, is this good or bad?
Safe or not safe?
Safe or not safe?
Yeah.
And if it keeps being safe,
Then we like it.
then we like it.
Cool. So it's like a reward system almost?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
So it's like we're learning all the time without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what else can this do?
Right. What other effects
Yeah.
affect us in other ways?
I'm curious too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back.
Yeah, back at it.
This mere exposure effect.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not just about liking something.
Right.
Like, it gets in there.
Yeah.
In our brains,
Right.
our choices, everything.
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much is going on.
Right. We're just starting to understand.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So just to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, what's the main idea here?
Yeah, just like the gist
Yeah.
of the mere exposure effect.
So basically, the more we see something,
Yeah.
the more we like it.
Right, more or less, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just about recognizing it.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so wild.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even have to know
Mhm.
that we've seen it.
Right, it's like subliminal almost.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, like, in those studies with the shapes,
yeah.
you know, they had no idea they had seen them.
Right, but they still like them more.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. And that means, like, all this stuff is happening
Sure.
without us knowing.
Right, like under the surface. Like,
Yeah.
what does this mean for us
Yeah.
in the real world?
Yeah, like outside the lab.
Right, like how does this affect our lives?
Okay, well, I'm thinking like
Yeah.
advertising.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Commercials?
Yeah, like all those commercials.
Yeah.
They're just like pounding it into us.
Uh-huh.
So even if you're not paying attention, you
Yeah.
have to wonder, like,
It's got to be affecting you.
yeah, is it making me like this product more than I would?
But I think so.
You know?
Like those jingles that get stuck in your head.
Oh my God.
And then you're like at the store, you're like,
yeah.
oh, I want that cereal.
Yeah,
The one with the catchy
And
song.
it's like, am I being manipulated?
Right.
It's kind of creepy.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more we know about it, the more we can be aware of it.
Yeah. And then make better choices, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But we got to be aware.
Definitely. It's like, yeah, a double-edged sword. Like,
Mhm.
can be good.
Right.
Like, you know, we like familiar things.
Yeah.
It makes us feel comfortable.
Safe.
But it can also lead to bad things,
Oh, really?
like biases and prejudice.
How?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
If you grow up
Uh-huh.
around people who look a certain way,
Right.
you're going to be more comfortable with people who look that way.
Because they're familiar.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's not like intentional.
Right. It's not like you're trying to be prejudiced.
Right. It's just like
Okay.
your brain's like, this is safe.
This is what I know.
This is familiar.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's like this ripple effect, you know?
Yeah.
It starts with liking, then it goes to like all these other like
Yeah.
deeper issues.
Yeah, it's like society.
Yeah, exactly.
Culture.
Our whole world.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Okay, so what have we learned so far?
Yeah. Like,
The
it's
main things.
the takeaway.
Yeah, the
So
takeaway.
number one,
Yeah.
it's real.
It's real.
This mere exposure effect.
Yeah.
It's not just like a theory.
Mhm.
It's like proven.
They've done the studies.
Yeah, like across cultures.
Yeah.
Different species even.
Oh, wow.
Like different things.
Yeah.
So it's real.
Okay, it's real.
Number two,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to know.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's happening in the background
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, which means like,
It's shaping us.
yeah, constant.
Without us knowing.
And even scarier, like
Yeah.
subliminal stuff.
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah, it's a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
But, you know, we could use it for good too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
How?
Well, like, what if
Mhm.
we used it for like education, public
that's-
health, like to help people,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Like, make better choices.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of manipulating people,
Hmm.
we could use it to help them.
Yeah, to make the world a better place.
Wow.
That's the goal.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's much better than just like
Yeah,
selling sugary cereal.
exactly. Like, we can do better.
Yeah. All right. So we can use it for good.
That's the hope,
Okay. So we talked about like advertising
right?
and how it can be used for, you know, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still kind of stuck on this.
Yeah.
Like the feelings coming before the thoughts.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. Is there anything else in the research?
Yeah, there's actually some other stuff that supports this.
Okay.
So Zajonc, right?
Yeah.
The classical conditioning thing.
Right.
That kind of shows that too.
Oh, how so?
Remember, like, Pavlov's dogs.
Yeah.
The bell and the food.
Uh-huh.
So the bell is neutral,
Mm-hmm.
but the food,
Yeah.
like, automatically makes the dog drool.
Right.
But that drooling, that's like a physical response.
Okay.
It's not like the dog is thinking, oh, I should drool now.
Right.
It's like instinct,
Yeah.
like automatic.
Before it even thinks about it.
Exactly.
Right.
So Zajonc is saying that with the mere exposure effect, it's kind of similar.
So like we have this feeling,
Yeah.
and then later,
Your brain catches up.
yeah, like, oh, that's why I like this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've seen it a bunch of times.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
So, like, our gut feelings,
Mhm.
they're really powerful.
Yeah, I'm starting to think we should listen to them more.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, maybe they know something.
maybe.
Yeah.
So how do we use this, like, in our lives?
Oh, that's the big question.
Yeah, like, how do we make this work for us?
Well, I think the first step is just being aware of it.
Okay.
Like, pay attention
To what?
to what you're seeing, what you're hearing, like, all the time. Like, what music are you listening to?
Okay.
What shows are you watching?
Right.
Who are you hanging out with?
That's a good point.
Yeah, because all of that is affecting you.
Like, it's shaping my preferences
It is.
without me even knowing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
so it's like, okay, so I'm noticing this pattern.
yeah.
Then what?
Then you can make a choice.
Okay.
Like, do I want to keep doing this?
Right.
Or do I want to change it?
Oh.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
let's say you're like doom scrolling
Yeah.
on the news.
All the time.
And you're like, I'm feeling terrible.
Why am I so anxious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to change that.
Right.
Like, maybe watch something else.
Okay, so it's like, be intentional
Yeah. Be mindful.
about what I'm letting into my brain
Exactly.
and my life, I guess.
Your whole life. Yeah.
Wow.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, okay, so we can use it for good.
Yeah.
We can use it for bad.
Yeah.
But really, it's just about, like,
Understanding it.
yeah.
And then, like you said, being mindful
Okay.
and making choices.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I learned a lot
Me too.
about myself, about the world.
Yeah. It's amazing how this one little thing
Right.
affects so much.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.